now we're going to create the Oaktag sloper for the front torso draft that we made. So the first thing you want to do is cut yourself a piece of Oaktag that will fit your torso sloper. And go ahead and tape it down on all four corners so it doesn't move on you. Okay, it's good secure, no bubbles or anything in it. And let's go ahead and tape down the giraffe on top. Okay, now make sure that your Oaktag is big enough, and you should be able to see through your pattern paper if the giraffe that you made is overlapping in the Oaktag. You don't want to end up tracing it off and find out you're missing a section of it. So you should be able to see through. Okay, so go ahead and line that up on your Oaktag, and go ahead and tape it down because you don't want it to move as you trace it off. If it does, then you're probably going to have to start over because it's really hard to line up again. Smooth the paper out across the Oaktag and tape it down. Don't want any bubbles or folds in your paper, so make sure it's nice and smooth and tight across the Oaktag. There we go. Okay, now that we're taped down, let's go ahead and start tracing off. All right, so we're going to work around this draft systematically. We're going to start here at the intersection of neckline and center front and mark. We're going to do the whole neckline because it's curved. Most straight lines, we won't trace the whole straight line. We'll just intersect the ends of them, and then we can connect it with our ruler later when we're truing it. So I did the whole neckline, and now I'm going to do where the neckline intersects with my center front. Okay, we're at shoulder and neckline. I already did my neckline, so I'm just going to do, because this is a straight line, I'm just going to mark this side of this shoulder about an inch, intersecting that neckline. And then come down here and mark the notch. And then come down here and mark the intersection of shoulder, where it intersects with the armhole. And then I'm going to do the whole armhole because it's curved. Okay, make sure you're pressing down nice and hard. Notice my tracing wheel is going back and forth. It helps me get better accuracy over it. When tracing, go slow. Mark the notch at your armhole. Okay. I'm going to mark my intersection of armhole and side seam. Come down here to where my dart leg is. I'm going to mark that intersection of side seam and dart leg. I'm going to come down to my other dart leg, mark that. I'm going to mark the whole dart opening because it kind of turns, or it kind of angles down. It's a short line, so it doesn't make sense just to do part of it. And now I'm going to mark my other dart leg, okay, where it intersects with side seam. Already marked here. I'm going to come down, and this has a nice curve to it, which I want to get. So I'm not going to mark this whole line, but I'm going to start about 2 inches above where my waist nips in, or curves in, and start tracing there. Follow that nice curve I have, and down hip curve because it's a straight line until I get to that notch that's 2 inches above my hip, and I'm just going to mark that. And then intersection of hem and side seam mark. Okay, come across, intersection of hem and center front, and mark your center front as well. Come up to your waistline, mark waistline where it intersects with center front and your center front. Don't forget to mark the waistline here as well. We trace that side seam. Okay, we're almost done. Let's come here. Let's mark the tip of our dart and the fold line of our dart. While we're at it, we want to mark the intersection of our apex. Okay, let's mark all our dart tips where they intersect. So right there. Okay, on waist, we're just going to mark our fold line and where the dart intakes meet our waistline. Okay, that's everything, so we can take off this draft now. Alright, Again, I like to start with my straight lines. So let's start with those. I'm going to mark my waistline. I like to mark this in red. You do not need to. This is just something I like to do. Alright, and now do our hemline. I know here at side seam it's straight up to that notch that's 2 inches above my hem. So let's mark that. And let's mark that notch 2 inches above the hem. At intersection of center front and neckline. Actually, before we do that, let's draw in our center front line. So line up the coordinating marks and go ahead. Okay. Now I'll do this. I can square off my center front. And square off for about 1/2 inch. Mark it. I can also true my shoulder seam. Again, make sure all these lines are intersecting. Don't forget the notch you have at shoulder seam, if you have one there. Okay, my dart, that center dart leg should go right through apex. Like that. I'll mark apex with a red cross so that we don't get too confused. And then my dart tip with my black. I also like to write an apex here. And now I can connect my dart tip to the side seam, to the marks at side seam, creating my dart legs. There we go. Now I can square off my waistline. If I square off my waistline and bring my ruler right up to that center line, that fold line of the dart, I can then create the fold lines of my waist darts. Okay. There we go. Let's create our dart tips. They intersect with that center fold line of the dart. Now I can connect my darts to the marks at waistline. So there are my darts. Okay, let's go ahead and I can true part of my armhole. It's pretty straight. The notch, directional notch and armhole. Okay, side seam here, I know I'm straight. Point. And then here. Okay, let's take our curve ruler. Remember, if we place one right at our waistline and bring it in until we touch our markings, that gives us the curve we want. Let's blend this a little bit better. Go. And then also here, if we put 11 at that notch 2 inches above our hip line and bring this in, that gives us our hip curve at side seam. Okay, let's draw in our neckline, which will blend to where we squared it, and our armhole. Okay, a little bit more information we want to put on here. This is our front torso sloper. It's a size 10. Put your name and the date. Okay, now we can cut it out. I also want to write center front right here. Okay, now let's hole punch apex. Now do not create such a big hole that you lose accuracy. Just one big enough to get your pencil tip through. Hole punch at your dart tips. And also hole punch at the intakes and fold line at waist of all your darts. Okay. And let's notch it. You're going to notch the notch 2 inches above your hem, notch at waistline, so notch your waist at waistline, notch your dart legs in center fold line of your dart, the side seam, your directional notch in your armhole, if you have one, your shoulder notch, and then at center front notch your waistline as well. Okay, there is your front torso sloper cut in Oaktag.